Holla holla, Claudina9 here. Last week's video, we talked about why Monster High had a reboot. Thanks, Karen. But this week, the creator of Monster High revealed which Monster High characters are part of the LGBT community, more details on the reboot, and why he was kicked off the Mattel team. If you're a fan of Monster High, this video has all the Monster High secrets you always wanted to know but could never find out. Before we get into today's video, be sure to click thumbs up and turn on notifications so I can keep you informed about all the toys we love. It definitely helps my channel a lot. Now, let's dive in. For those of you who don't know, Garret Sander is the legendary creator and former design manager of Monster High at Mattel. Before Monster High, Garret was a member of the packaging department and worked on brands like My Scene and Winx Club. In 2007, him and a small team over at Mattel had the idea to create Monster High. And by 2010, the doll line made its debut, with Garret mascotting a booth at San Diego Comic-Con and a behind-the-scenes intro to Monster High video. On Monday, May 11th, Garret answered questions on his Instagram story at Garret_Sander, and naturally, as a Monster High superfan, I watched every single slide. Since they only last 24 hours, I knew I needed to share all the ghostly gossip with my fellow Monster High lovers who may have missed it. First on the list, one user asked, "Why did you guys change Howleen's hair color from orange to pink?" Garret revealed management didn't think her color scheme was girl-friendly enough, so we had to change it. ... Looks like gender stereotypes are still alive and well. Howleen is the younger sister of Claudine, and originally Howleen Wolf had a beautiful orange afro with yellow highlights in the style of a mohawk. Let me know which version of Howleen you prefer down below. I know, I did a whole 12-minute video explaining the reboot already, but Garret sums it up sweet and shortly here in his answer to why did the reboot happen and why did they change the whole storyline. Garret revealed Mattel thought by making the line softer it would sell more dolls. I did not agree with this. As for less articulation, that is because certain price points are required by retailers and costs to make toys typically go up each year. In order to afford to make the doll hit the price point the retailers want, you have to cut things. Designers don't want to, but we don't have a choice. I discuss all this in greater detail on how non-creatives get to make creative decisions in my Monster High reboot video. Check that out in the link below later. Garret answered a question today stating, management at Mattel wanted to reboot the brand. I didn't have an issue with a reboot, but I did disagree with it going against everything Monster High stood for. Instead of softening the line, it should have become a brand that celebrated even more. Differences, different body types, different abilities, celebrate the uniqueness the brand was built upon. If you're an OG Monster High fan, you know the talk of the century was Frankie dating any guy who walked through the door.
Oh, you're so smart. Who's that voltageously cute zombie unicorn guy? Oh, well, aren't you cute? I'm Frankie.
I'm Andy.
Garret had some words to say about people who are mad at this. Frankie's allowed to like whoever she wants, whenever she wants. She is still pretty new to the world. She doesn't need to be locking down anything down right away. In layman's terms, Frankie is baby and also a player. What about it? For all you Ever After High fans, someone asked, were you involved in any way on Ever After High? Garret says, yes, at vitamin_D_81, and I led the team in creating Ever After High. We came up with the core characters and initial storyline. For context, Vitamin D81 is Garret's amazing brother Garret Sander, who also coined the original Monster High slogan, Freaky Just Got Fabulous. A question was asked about LGBT characters at Ever After High, but Garret couldn't reveal anything seeing as he mainly worked on Monster High. But there was a scene in Dragon Games that leads me to believe that someone on the team was dropping hints. That leads me to my next slide. Was there any talk of making an LGBT character or couple pair? To which Garret replied, of course there was. There were a couple characters we wanted to be LGBT. While we didn't get to say it outright, we tried to hint at it where we could. It was frustrating. But it didn't end there. The questions kept coming in and Garret continued answering. I hope this isn't too much of a controversial question, but I've noticed that Claudine seemed to be queer-coded as a member of the LGBT community through the series. Were there any plans of an LGBT plus character? To which Garret responded, we tried, but always got the quote-unquote it's not the right time answer. We tried to give hints in the diaries as best we could at the time. Who else is rereading all the Monster High diaries we kept in plastic bags now? After being questioned several times, Garrett finally revealed which Monster High characters were part of the LGBT community. At Garret Sander, alongside Claudine, were there any LGBT plus characters? If so, who? Nathan was planned to be, but wasn't quote-unquote the right time. We also planned for Valentine to come out in his diary for the SDCC exclusive. The idea was that he was ashamed of being gay, so he tried going after a fake version of love by not being himself. And by finally accepting who he was able to thrive and not only find true love for himself, but being able to love himself for who he was. It was a really touching story, but the powers that be felt it was putting an LGBT person in a negative light, even though I wrote it and was the only LGBT person on the team at the time. I know what everyone's thinking, and I'm as frustrated as everyone else. Garrett being told he'd be doing a disservice to the LGBT community despite being the only LGBT person on the team doesn't make a lot of sense. Monster High was known for making daring choices, discussing prejudice and racism.
When I take that boy up the hill tonight, things can get back to the good old days.
It's time we got back to the true meaning of this holiday. Putting monsters in their places!
So yeah, discussing police brutality in a kid's movie, it only made sense that they'd be the first mainstream doll line to have an LGBT character. Personally, I find it interesting that companies keep saying it's not the right time. When is the right time? Being a pioneer and being a trailblazer means someone has to do it first. Mary Poppins said it best, if not today, then never. Goth Cody on Tumblr highlighted some of the lines from Valentine's diary that alluded to his sexuality, such as, "I bumped into a student I didn't recognize. He said his name was Speldon Caldronello. Meeting him totally made me space out and forget to send a text, so I gave him my number." Another entry reads, "But it allowed me time to do some serious thinking and I realized I wasn't being true to myself." Garrett also confirmed that Speldon is Casta's little brother. I'm curious if this means that Speldon was intended to be in a 2-pack with Valentine somewhere down the line before the reboot. If you're interested in reading more Monster High Diaries, there's a Tumblr blog dedicated to all entries. I'll link that in the description. And despite the fact that executives refuse to outwardly say characters were gay, it's nice to know there's people like Garrett representing and pushing boundaries for the community behind the scenes. In 2015, both Monster High and Ever After High posted #LoveWins content after the US Supreme Court found bans on marriage equality to be unconstitutional. So, which characters are confirmed LGBT? Valentine and Nathan were intended to be. Claudine wasn't initially created to be lesbian, but Garrett fully supports the idea. Kiyomi has subtle hints in her diary. According to Garrett, he, quote, could totally see Kala liking all the fish in and out of the sea. He supports the idea of Gilda being trans, although she also wasn't initially designed to be. Let me know below, are there any characters you think may be LGBTQ+, or any major hints you noticed? I personally think Hoodoo and Venus may be LGBT as well. We did also get to see Manny and Slow-Mo dance together in Why Do Ghouls Fall in Love as a gag, but nothing beats Nathan Rott turning into a rainbow in the Zombie Gaga music video. Do you think it's time for there to be an outwardly LGBT doll? Let's discuss in the comments. Zombie X-Cord asks, did you guys ever sketch the crossover look / did prototypes ever get made? Also, when the reboot leaked, did Mattel ever see how fans reacted towards the news early on? Garrett says, we did sketches but didn't build any prototypes. I'm sure they saw. Yikes. It's a little crazy to get confirmation Mattel knows how much fans hated the reboot. Hopefully this means the new Monster High dolls will take fans' concerns into account. Garrett talked about the new dolls on his Instagram as well. More on that later in this video. Additionally, sometime during 2012, Spectra was given a softer face sculpt. Garrett revealed management thought it was because her face was too severe, but they secretly gave her back the harsh cheekbones later down the line without telling anyone. Spectra should totally make a blog post about this. In 2014, Monster High released Frightfully Tall Ghouls, which is a 17-inch doll line with several points of articulation. Sander explained that Laguna was intended to be a part of this line, but due to budgeting, they had to stick with the doll sculpt they already had, and chose Elizabeth because she uses Draculaura's sculpt. One user expressed their gratitude to Garrett and went on to ask, what more ideas came up for a new project that Mattel never let you produce? Garrett responded, can't talk about projects that never happened unfortunately, but Vitamin D81 had come up with a concept that we worked on together and I wish it could have seen the light of day. It was so cool. A few years ago, I guess now over 7 years ago, Mattel trademarked several different high school names such as Cosmic High, High Seas High, Luna High, and Robo High. Garrett revealed Mattel trademarked a lot of names with High to protect Monster High from knockoff lines. Though before there was Ever After High, the plan was to do Cosmic High. We were told to stop and proceed with Ever After. We later found out it was because Novi Stars was coming out. Wow, wait, what? Novi Stars is a line by MGA, the makers of Bratz, as a competing doll line to Monster High. They use terms like Cosmic Quirk, which is similar to Monster High's iconic Freaky Flaw. I wonder if this is why we didn't see our first official Monster High witch until 2014, with MGA making Bratzillas as another competitor to Monster High. Bratzillas are the witchy cousins of the Bratz. Their slogan is Glam Gets Wicked, and they attend a secret school just for witches. As a doll lover, I collected every doll line at the time, but I'll be making a video on the cultural reset of fashion dolls in the near future. While on the topic of Bratz, this user asked, did Bratz become an inspo when Monster High was being made, specifically on these pre-debut artworks? Garrett responded, Bratz dolls are awesome and I love them. While we wanted to make sure we had lots of detail, that's about as close to Bratz as we got. So that's cool to know. Basically, there's no need to compare apples to oranges, and the toy aisle sure needs them both right about now. Now the moment you've all been waiting for. Why is Garret Sander no longer at Mattel? What does this mean for Monster High? I think this user speaks for all of us when they said, bring back Monster High, please. Garrett said, I would love to, but I don't work at Mattel anymore, and because I created it while an employee there, Mattel owns everything. Another asks, Garrett, will Monster High ever return with an old style and cartoon? To a response, I don't know, it's up to Mattel. I don't work there anymore and they own everything I designed while I was there. So basically, contractually, anything Garrett designed or had an idea of while working at Mattel is now owned by Mattel. Even though Garrett created it, Mattel gets to keep it. This is why Mattel sued MGA over Bratz, because Carter Bryant originally worked for Mattel, but sold his idea of Bratz to MGA. But why is he no longer at Mattel? Well, this user bravely asks, if it's not personal, why did Mattel kick you off of Monster High? Garrett says, basically because I didn't agree with the direction of the reboot. Garrett now works for Moose Toys, the makers of Shopkins, and his line Capsule Chicks. He also revealed he didn't have any involvement on the reboot and seemingly didn't even watch the reboot webisode or movies. The last thing he designed was Great Scarier Reef and the Monica and Draculaura 2-pack, which did end up being a debut for the reboot. He did go on to talk about the new collector dolls. Thoughts on the rumored 2020 dolls? He says, all of your guesses are as good as mine, but excited to see what they look like. So yeah, not much news there, but he did acknowledge its possibility and confirmed he is not the one working on it. I'll be keeping you updated about the new Monster High 2020 dolls as information comes, so be sure to click subscribe and turn on that bell notification so you never miss the news. During the time of filming this video, Garrett is still answering questions periodically on his Instagram stories, so I want to send a disclaimer to fans who may want answers to their burning questions. Aside from being amidst a pandemic, Garrett is likely receiving many questions at once and can't possibly answer them all, so please be mindful when you submit. I think I speak on behalf of the entire Monster High fandom when I say thank you scary much to Garret Sander for one of the most daring, bold, and empowering doll lines of the century. Don't forget to click thumbs up, click subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching. See ya!